But I'm going to say right now, our best film of the week, you can disagree, is War Game. Eric Holmes, what say you? Don't bury the lead. What
Um,
is it the best movie of the week? Off the top of your head?
Hard to
Off the
say.
dome?
Hard to say.
Hard to say.
War Game is
Oh,
great, but
diplomatic.
so are
Okay.
the other two movies I saw. So
Oh, okay.
we'll see
Well,
how the numbers play out, but maybe.
okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but
All
that
right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're
All
in
right. We'll
banger
see.
season, so we'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. Now, War Game is it's sort of a documentary, sort of a movie. Here is a plot summary, official plot synopsis. War Game sweeps audiences into an elaborate future set simulation that dramatically escalates the threat posed by the January 6th, 2021 insurrection. So what happens is the filmmakers they set up a simulation. It sort of mirrors the insurrection from January 6th, and you have real life politicians, retired or working military veterans as well. They play part in this elaborate quote war game. Someone plays a president, some real people who've worked for the government play the advisors, and they must confront a political coup that's backed by this group called, I think they're called the Order of Columbus, if I'm not mistaken. So the Order of Columbus
So
is
yeah,
made
something like
up,
that.
yeah, Order of Columbus. They're made up by some of them are real life military veterans. And what's interesting is these military veterans, they have insights on what some of these insurgents or this insurrection thing, that POV, because they've been in the war, they know what's going on, boots on the ground. So it's interesting. You have sort of this battle, mind game, chess match between the politicians, the officials in this situation room as they're trying to figure out how to quell this insurrection orchestrated by the Order of Columbus. It's directed by Tony Gerber and Jesse Moss. Hits New York August 2nd and more markets August 9th. I think, Eric, did you notice some of the politicians and military advisors? I noticed General Clark there. That was great to see him. But, well, there's some really cool people there,
Yeah.
and they look like they know what they're doing.
So
And you're thinking,
here's the thing about it
yeah, go
from my
ahead.
point of view. I didn't know. I couldn't tell if this was a documentary or if this was a movie. Like to made it look like a documentary because I didn't
I
know
think,
I didn't recognize anyone in it. And like the Order of Columbus, I thought that was a made up insurgents
right.
group,
Yeah,
like
I'm
a
assuming
Proud
it's made.
Boys fanboy, or Proud
Right.
Boys, like because the presidents obviously were just made up names. A lot of the names were made up names because they wanted to have it. They wanted to maintain the nonpartisan aspect of it because it's not about Republican or Democrat. It's if this thing happens, this is how we're going to deal with it.
Right. Yeah. Because what happens is the main issue with war game is, will the president, whoever the president is played by in this war game, and his group of advisors, will they collectively decide to call upon the Insurrection Act? And I think that's a real big thing. That's one of the big conflicts in war game, because what will be the repercussions if they do that? What if they give a lot of government powers to the National Guards for each state? Because this insurrection is not just aimed at the capital. This war game actually complicates matters and puts it. This is not too much of a spoiler at all. Puts the insurrections at different locations in the United States. To Eric's point, it feels like a movie. It's really a documentary. It's a documentary about a simulation game between people who know how to run the government or who have helped run the government before versus insurrectionists played by real life military veterans who know a thing or two about politics and mind games and insurrections and whatnot and serving their country. I thought this was so interesting to watch. Really loved it. Towards the end, it feels like a thriller because you don't know what they're going to do. And I just really loved how things played out. It felt like a real life. No, it didn't feel completely real life, but it was so engaging. And I got to learn a lot about what would happen if January 6th happened again. What would be the ins and outs? How would people in the government act? How would the insurrections act? Could this spread out? Is it a possibility in the future? A lot of questions for me, who's not a political guru, and I just watch friggin' movies. So this was, for me as a layperson, It was highly entertaining, engaging, and insightful. Eric Holmes, your review of War Game.
So yeah, this was I was very confused watching this, not in the plot, but in how did they make this? Because on one hand, it feels like a movie. It doesn't feel like a documentary a lot of the time. Again, with
Right.
the made up names that they use and make up, all the stuff they
Cutting.
made up that are, you know,
Yeah.
stand-ins for real life things.
Right. Like cutting to
But
the broadcasters. They cut to the broadcaster a lot where they talk about the news media.
on
They try to make it real. So
Yeah, and on top of that,
those
like
kind of
they're
situations.
shooting in like the Situation Room, like they're shooting in all these places where I'm like, do they let documentary crews do that? Because that doesn't seem like that. It just seems like incredible access for a
Right.
documentary. But like
Right.
if it was a movie, it's like, oh, that's a set. But man, that's an expensive set. So like on one hand, it feels like a independent movie, but the budget would be too high just for the sets they would have to build. On the other hand, it was like it's a documentary, but how did they get the access? So like just like the filmmaking aspect of this and the behind the scenes stuff that I'm imagining in my head, like trying to piece together, how did they make this? This is so good. And then the whole setup of it, of we're gonna set up a war game and then play it out and see how that would go about, seems amazing.
Yeah.
It's just incredibly interesting to watch.
Yeah.
And then I start getting confused again. I'm like, if this is a thing they're doing, to basically figure out how they're going to handle an insurrection, why are they showing the public this? This seems like something they would keep private. Like this, now we know. It's like, are we going to make this private? Hell no, because that's just going to give them ideas on how to, find the cracks in the armor and then sneak through. But yeah, this movie is fantastic, incredibly interesting. It would be interesting on its own, like just on its own terms of what it is. And then it's even more interesting, knowing what we know about movies, just watching this going, how was this made? I don't understand how this was made. This is,
Well, Eric, I think what makes it so interesting, sorry for interrupting
oh,
you, is
go for it.
they have real people doing not their exact jobs with the government, but sort of a facsimile of what they did for the government
Yeah.
or veterans. Obviously these are men and women who served our country, but the fact that they're actually helping craft this mind game insurrection war game thing, it's really cool to see as opposed to if someone like actors did war game. Did that add an extra layer for you that these are actual real life people doing
I,
this?
it didn't, like I saw whether it was a documentary or an actual narrative. I saw it as this is all people stage as other people just to see how it would play out.
Sure.
But okay, for instance, I got to beef up security here at home because we have Bruce locked up in the attic. There's like no security. Now,
Sure.
if I'm gonna this week I'm gonna start beefing up the security so people can't go up and try to rescue Bruce. Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to make a documentary about it and put it out for the public to see, because then
That's
they're going
true.
to figure out how to get in there and then get Bruce. So like there's just so much about this that like I can't believe this movie exists, but I'm glad I watched it because it was incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, this is such a cool film. Look, the confusion that Eric is mentioning regarding War Game is really apt because sometimes you feel like you're actually watching something real life going on. And it's really not a documentary because they're staging this war game, and it's really not. It's a weird thing, but it's a good thing. So my rating for War Game, 4.5 stars, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Eric really loved it. High rewatchability factor. The final act is really well done as well. I'm not gonna get into spoilers, but it was pretty rousing in my opinion. Eric Holmes, your rating on War Game?
Oh, this is 6.9 all the way.
6.9
Yeah,
stars. Family show, 5 stars.
if I
The
was on the
government has said no. I'm the government now. The government is censoring it. Comes to 6.9
uh,
stars. Family show, 5 stars. I'm kidding. Go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
I'll give it
Go ahead.
50 stars for all the states of America. No,
Very good.
if I was part of the Secret Service, I would give this like 0 stars. Do not watch this. There's way too much information in here that we do not need you seeing. But yeah, this movie's great. Like beyond the movie itself, there's just so much that I consider behind the scenes that makes it that much more interesting. And my mind's just firing off everywhere, going, how was this made? I don't understand
There,
how this was made. It was so good.
there's a military veteran. I forgot his name. and he's part of the insurrection crew. He's the one who helps just stage that insurrection and add information. He talks about his life in the military, why he joined up, and to see him actually play out as the quote unquote the anti-government insurrectionist is so compelling because you get to see his own feelings about America as well because he served his country, but he also had conflicting. There's so many cool things
are you
about
talking
Wargame.
about the guy that they were recording him doing his speech early on? He was like the leader of the Columbus or whatever.
Yeah, he's one of the leaders of the
Yeah.
Order of Columbus. Yeah, he was the main guy there, the main guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, the main guy.
we didn't even really harp on that. The characters in this are great too. Like
Yeah,
not just the people that are stand-ins for other would-be
right.
actors in a real life scenario. That they were all great. The actual people were just cool to follow. What's not to like about this?
What
This thing's
exactly?
rad.
6.9, 6 point, very rad. 6.9. Look, when Eric said rad, another official in the, I don't want to give too much away. An official says something close to being rad, and then another official says, I don't know if we say that in the situation room. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool things about Wargame. Eric 6.9,
I mean,
me 4.5 stars. Hi, yes.
not to show my hand, but Rad will come up later on.
Yes, yes.
Didn't mean to kneecap this review, but
Oh,
it'll come up
very,
later.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I feel bad. Oh, I do not know what Bruce Perky said about Wargame. Neither, I'm assuming, does Eric, because I think moving forward, we don't listen to Bruce's cinematic segment until we're done with this episode. So it keeps us fresh, and I just can't wait to hear what Bruce has to say about Wargame. You guys might know first. Who knows? Or maybe before Eric, because I'm editing the show. Wargame. Check out Bruce's review later on for the
My
cinematic
guess
segment.
is
Yes,
that
Eric.
my guess is that he's gonna dig this one.
Oh,
I can't
right?
imagine who would not like this. This documentary is
So
so
good.
good.
So good. So good. All right. Again, New York, August 2nd. More markets, August 9th.